Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a superhero review, and today I'll be having a look at Gen 13 movie. No, it's not a live action movie, I'm sorry to say. This is an animated movie. So, Gen 13 was a comic published by Wildstorm Comics. And first thing I would say, I've never actually read a Gen 13 comic. I've read a couple of crossovers that they had with Marvel and I think a couple of other characters, but I've never just read it's just a typical Gen 13 comic. So I will say that that's going to be quite important to what I want to say in this review. So, I watched, I'm a superhero fan, I've seen the Gen 13 movie, but I'm not familiar with the comics, and that's going to be sort of, this is me my point of view as a kind of, as a non-Gen 13 fan, essentially. So this film, interestingly, was only ever launched and ever available officially in Europe on VHS. This film was shelved near enough straight away after it was made, and it has never been officially released in the US. So you can only ever get a bootleg version of it in the US that will look something along lines of this. And I say, if you wanted to get an official copy, the only way you can to get it is to get it on VHS, on a European copy. It is available. It was available here in the UK, and the cover will look something like this. Now, I was actually lucky enough to get a copy when this first came out, but these days it's pretty scarce. So, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of, or I'm not a fan at all necessarily of the Gen 13 comic, but as far as I'm aware, this is kind of it's basically a sort of slimmed down origin story, and it's basically a superhero team, very much akin to sort of like the likes of X-Men. As far as I know, the actual Gen 13 team actually had more members than it does here, as normally I think 5 or 6 members. Here it's just got 3. So the story mainly focuses on a character called Caitlin Fairchild, who it's kind of like this nerdy sort of girl who's at school and kind of, she was kind of orphaned when she was younger. And this scene actually, the first thing you see in this movie is a family basically getting, the parents getting gunned down by sort of helicopters whilst the young children sort of witness it, basically. So you can kind of, this is obviously not going to be for kids, and I'll come on to that a little bit again in a minute. So Caitlin's at school basically, and she's approached by some sort of government official who's basically asking her to sort of go to this sort of special sort of type of college or university or what have you. And she goes there, and basically it's kind of this military compound, and they're basically all of these other sort of young teenagers and what have you that are sort of the next generation of potential superheroes, or maybe not superheroes, but people with powers, basically. And I'm getting that the Gen 13 means they're the 13th generation, and obviously Generation 12 being their parents. I'm not 100% sure of that. That's just what I got from this film. So correct me if I'm wrong about that. There she meets 2 friends. Caitlin's played by Alicia Witt. Then she meets 2 friends, a girl called Roxy, who's kind of like this sort of bad girl punk type character, and Grunge, who's voiced by Flea, who's kind of this dumb surfer dude kind of thing. He looks a bit like Beast from the X-Men animated series, I thought, but a human version. Then they have a kind of like a few sort of scenes where they're sort of training and what have you, and then it turns out that the sort of the faculty of this place are actually doing some sort of experiments on them. Inevitably, sort of stuff goes wrong, and the sort of the 3 main characters are sort of break free and kind of rebel, and basically, and then the kind of the bad guys are saying, like, now we've got to kill him. And then it's a case of them sort of rebelling and trying to sort of fight against the sort of these kind of like evil military school children type places. One of them turns out to be, spoiler, turns out to be the brother of Fairchild when she was younger, and he's kind of got these like powers as well. And he's played by Mark Hamill. His character's called Threshold. So, and that's kind of it. So it's really the origins of this team. Obviously, there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's kind of in a nutshell. So, like I said, I want to get back to this film. Is definitely not for kids. The animation style would fool you into thinking it is though. It looks a lot like Batman the Animated Series. So when you see like stills of this, and I'll try and put a couple up in this review, it very much looks like that sort of type of show, but it really isn't. This is really for adults. Like I said, the first thing the first scene you see is you know, kids witnessing their parents getting sort of gunned down. The second scene is a quite gratuitous shot of one of the girls' arses in little panties and things like that. There's also a fair few sexy scenes in it. Now, there's no sort of full-on nudity or sex, but there's certainly you know, lots of certainly female characters running around in underwear. I'm not, you know, saying you shouldn't watch it because of that, but just to give you an idea of obviously what to expect. Now, when you get through the, there's also a mild bit of swearing as well. When the characters basically evolve into the powers, one of the scenes is this Caitlin basically turned into like a She-Hulk character. So she sort of grows massively in size, and her boobs become massive and rip out of her clothes. Again, you don't see anything. It's all sort of edited, so you can't really see so much. But you know, obviously the it's implied. Then Roxy becomes kind of like a she can control gravity. So it looks a little bit like almost like it's telepathy, but she can kind of control gravity, you know, throw stuff around. And then Grunge basically becomes like the absorbing man from Marvel Comics. So basically he can kind of absorb the properties of anything he touches, from like metal and stone and what have you. So there's some quite good SmackDown scenes where you got fighting with all the powers and stuff like that. So what I liked about this movie, I thought the voice acting was very good. Obviously, Mark Hamill's made a very good career out of voice acting. Obviously, most of that would be for the Joker in the Batman animated series. But as I say, you've also got Alicia Witt, obviously playing the main sort of character, Fairchild. And the story is, you know, it's fairly engaging, if not massively original. The problem I have with that, I guess, is that the animation is and sort of art is relatively basic, and I get the impression that it was maybe a little bit rushed, and there was not a lot of money, so you know, but it kind of looks a little bit. Certainly, I mean, I'll give you an example of the sort of the kind of generic sort of soldier bad guys that look just very sort of like just cheap stormtroopers basically, and. Now, like I said at the beginning, I'm not a Gen 13 fan. Now, well, the issue maybe I had with it going into this film, it's not really knowing anything about the comics. I couldn't really understand the motivations of the bad guys. Now, if you've read the comics, I'm guessing this is going to be a lot clearer to you. But I couldn't really understand what the point of this school was. What were they trying to accomplish? I'm guessing it was trying to make some sort of super soldier. But were they government funded? I mean, because obviously this is quite a big thing, and you know, I didn't really understand what their motivations were, to be quite honest with you, and who's funding it, and things like that. And then you have at the end with this sort of like seemingly other type of government people are coming in to try and sort of destroy them, but they have a conversation before which makes it sound like they're all working for the same place. So to me, that was a little bit unclear. Now, as I say, if you're a Gen 13 fan, you'll probably know the answer to that, and you may sort of don't have to worry about it. But as someone who's not read the Gen 13 comics, that was a little bit. I didn't really quite understand, you know, these people and what they were doing basically, and the kind of the female bad guy as well, who's kind of like this gothic Jessica Rabbit looking sort of character who's got a robot arm. I mean, who is she? I just don't know. So there you go. So. But overall, it's an enjoyable film. I'll give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Have you seen it? I know it's a bit difficult to find this film, so in America it's going to have to be a bootleg, unfortunately. But if you're in Europe, you'll be able to pick it up on VHS if you're, you know, scour eBay at some point. Anyway, leave me a comment. Have you seen it? Let me know what you think, and I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.